There's some really tricky tactics that website brokers use to sell website businesses to take more money from you. Isn't that crazy? Hey, I'm Jared Kraus from buyingonlinebusinesses.com, and what I want to do is I want to break down some of those tricky tactics in this video so you can understand what they're doing to drive up the valuations and drive up the prices of these website businesses, so you don't have to buy into those tricky tactics as well. You can really understand what they're doing and you can break that down and see if that is actually something that you want to use to value the business yourself, or are there some other techniques that you want to use to value the business that you believe is actually worth, so you don't get taken advantage of and you don't overpay for a website business that's not going to produce the return on investment that you actually want. So stay tuned. The best advice on how to buy an online business that's past that 90% failure rate that all startups face and has a proven track record of making money month over month. Hit the subscribe button, also hit the bell notification so you can get updated when I upload new videos about this every single week. Now, I have purchased multiple businesses myself from website brokers, and I've also had a bunch of clients purchase businesses from website brokers, and I do due diligence on hundreds of website businesses that are valued by brokers who have set the asking price. And I get to have a good inside look through all the due diligence that I do and all the due diligence that my clients do into some of the tricky tactics that these website brokers are using to gain a higher sale price and gain more money, not just for their client, the seller, but also from themselves. So these are the things to be aware of. Number one is the monthly average net profit. And how many months do they use to get the average monthly net profit? Once upon a time, every single website business listed was selling for an average monthly net profit over a 12-month time span. And when you buy a brick and mortar business, that's what we look at, right? We look at the whole year of the average net profit, and we times that by maybe 2 or 3 or 4, sometimes 5 and higher in cases. So that's the multiple we use when we're purchasing usually a brick and mortar business. And even some website brokers use a yearly multiple as well. But what do website brokers do? And most website brokers are doing some tricky tactic to have us pay more for a website business. Instead of using a whole annual net profit, what they do is they go away and they find the best 3 months that the business has had in revenue, or the best 4 months, or the best 5 months that the business has had in average revenue or average net profit. And they get the 6 months and divide that by 6, and they have the average net profit, and they times that by a multiple of months, right? It could be 30 months, 40 months, even 50 months in some cases. Now, this is a tricky tactic. This is a very, very tricky tactic that website brokers use. And a lot of these website brokers are going to argue against me saying this, that, well, online businesses change very, very quickly. And I agree, online businesses can change very, very quickly. We have algorithm changes that change in Google. We have Facebook that shut Facebook accounts down. We have all these different things that can happen within our online business. But the best businesses, they don't have these radical ups and downs, and they don't have as much risk as many of these website businesses that we could possibly be purchasing. And we can see the businesses are quite stable. These are the businesses that I like to buy, and I like to value them over the 12-month net profit because I know they're set up well. When we see a business that has a really huge spike over 6 months, it means they've done something to ensure they can retrieve a lot of profits that may not be ethical and an evergreen approach for the business moving forwards. And the brokers can go away and get the average monthly net profit over a 3-month or a 6-month period, sometimes 8 months or 7 months, but quite rarely now is it over a 12-month period. And those businesses that are valued over a 12-month period, usually they're businesses that are quite good. So this is a tricky tactic that website brokers use, especially for young businesses that have only been around for a year, right? Or even 6 months or 2 years, but have had a really good 6 months. And they'll value the business off those 6 months. So that's a tricky tactic that website brokers use. And a lot of people in the space will argue, especially people that are building websites to buy, will argue that that's the best way to value a business because the site's been so young. But in my opinion, I believe it's better to buy an age site that has a very methodical, slow burn growth approach that is predictable. That's just my opinion, and I believe they're less risky, and I believe that's something that you should look into as well, is like, what type of business do you want to buy, and do you want to see these quick growths and go, oh, maybe I can achieve that as well, and I believe the business is valued off that because I can continue those quick growths. You know, usually the law of like what comes up really, really fast goes down really, really fast. So there's something that we need to consider, and that is a tricky tactic that I wanted to highlight and explain to you that website brokers use to be able to gain more money for the sale of a business for themselves and for the seller. The second tactic is something that somebody in our community posted about and asked. You know, they're very new to the space, they've just joined the community and they started doing due diligence on a website business, and the broker come back and said, look, we've just had an offer on the business, you have 24 hours to present your own offer, right? Basically that's saying like, hey, we're about to sell the business, but if you want to pay more for it, then you can bid more for it. Now, this is a tricky tactic and it really plays on people's emotions, right? So when this person posted this in the group, I could tell they're like in a state of FOMO, in a state of fear of missing out, where they go, oh my God, this is a business that's gonna sell. And what happens psychologically in our brain is we go, well, this business is gonna sell, so it must be good. Surely I should pay a little bit more to outbid this person and win that business. This is what happens in our irrational brain sometimes, and it's absolutely crazy and interesting to see. But this is a tricky tactic and a psychological tactic that website brokers can use to end up getting other people who are doing due diligence on those types of businesses to either pay more. Sure, yes, it's a legitimate way that you can get a higher price for yourself or for the seller and yourself as the broker, right? And it's really, really good to notify those people that are doing due diligence as well that this person has made an offer, and if you want it, you can bid a higher offer. That is a good service. But it's also a tricky thing that can happen to us psychologically, where we can buy into the state of FOMO and go away and help drive the price of that business up by people that are in a state of FOMO and disregard what they're looking at and the value of the business that they're looking at when they've done their due diligence. They can disregard their due diligence and step into this state of emotion. And I've talked about this before, where a lot of people who are purchasing website businesses, especially for their first time, it's an emotional thing because we've already bought into this vision and this dream of us owning this business and what our life's going to be like when we do own it. So this is something that you need to be aware of, and you need to be non-attached, right? Have no emotions within this, and only have a fair price based off the valuation that you got throughout your due diligence. So don't buy into these tactics unless you know the business is worth more than what that person who has put an offer on that business. If you feel the business is worth more than that, then go for it. If you're operating from a place of FOMO, be very, very careful, because you can end up purchasing a business that's not valued at the price that you paid. The third tricky tactic that website brokers have been known to use, and I'm not talking about all website brokers here, but I have seen this play out through many, many clients looking at buying website businesses, is that website brokers can put a high asking price for a particular listing or many listings. And there's a great strategy that they can use, or a tricky tactic they can use, and why they would do this. Now, when they put a high asking price for a business, what happens is people can come away, they do the due diligence, and they see the business is not worth that high asking price. So they will submit an offer on what they believe it is valuable, which is what one of my clients had done. And what happened between that was that they say the seller's asking this price and you're here at this price, let's start to meet in the middle. And that can drive the valuation of the price of that business up, because rationally we go, well, the brokers know so much about this business, they know so much about the space, surely they know a fair asking price or the real value of a website. So they put it at X amount, which is quite high. I'm going to bid at what I think it is. And then irrationally we think, well, they know what they're doing, they know the value of a business, so maybe we need to slowly creep up. And you know, the real value of the business may actually be what we valued at throughout our due diligence. But if you don't have a good sounding board, you don't have a good mentor, or you don't know the real value of a business, what can happen is, for unexperienced buyers, is they can start creeping up their valuation to get close, like to meet in the middle. And that's something that a lot of us end up, you know, buying into when we're purchasing anything, whether we're purchasing something off Craigslist, or in Australia we call it Gumtree. people will start at a high price and then you'll bid low and then you meet in the middle. That can work in the online business game, and it's something to be very, very, very wary of, that brokers can use as a tricky tactic. As an example, there was a business that was for sale that was listed for about $700,000, and my client ended up buying it for around $400,000, and I think it was $280,000 that we saved him. But did we really save him $280,000, or was that listing, the value, just overpriced? Did they just jack up the asking price to get somebody to come up closer to it to purchase that business? And that can be a tricky tactic that website brokers use that you should be looking out for. And the only way to combat this, the only way, is to know the value of a business by doing really, really good due diligence. Now, if you don't have my due diligence framework, please make sure you go away, click the link below in the description and download my due diligence framework. It's going to take the guesswork out of doing due diligence. It's going to take the guesswork out of knowing if a business is good, knowing if a business is valuable versus being a lemon. So make sure you download that. Don't go away and try to do this haphazardly and without any experience and without a good tool that can help you bring justice to your valuation. So number 4, there's one last tricky tactic that I want to get through. And this is what some website brokers do. And not even just website brokers, even sellers do this themselves. What they do is they get their business ready for sale. So what they do is, because they have expenses in the business, say for example, expenses with content or marketing or whatever it is, they'll reduce those expenses, right? They will remove even the staff from the business and say that we actually don't have that expensive staff, right? Even though they probably did for a whole year before that to build the business up, they'll remove that expense of the staff. So the average monthly net profit of the business is a little bit higher. And when you times that by many, many months, even if it's over a 3-month or 6-month period, then they remove the staff over a 3-month or 6-month period, and they value the business off those 3 months or those 6 months without staff, which can increase the average monthly net profit because you don't have staff costs, or you've minimized some of the marketing costs. And this is a tricky tactic that you need to be aware of. And you need to be asking questions like, did the seller have staff on? If so, what was the work they were doing? How much did that cost them? So then you can value the business based off what it's actually worth if you were to have your own staff involved running the business as well. So there's something to consider too. There's a little tricky tactic that website brokers and sellers can use themselves to get a higher valuation for a business because they minimize their expenses. And talking about staff, and say if a website business is a content website where they are producing content on a regular basis, are you going to go away and build a team, and how much would that actually cost for you to run the business? Or are you just going to hire a content service who can produce that content for you? Now, a lot of my clients actually use a great content website service, which is nichewebsite.builders, where they create content and do backlink building. I'm talking about finding the keywords, creating the content, even uploading the article complete for you for the site, and doing backlink building services that can help you gain traffic to that site. So if you're going to be moving forwards, you can value the cost of using niche website builders to grow the business and compare that to what the previous owner was using for their content services as well. Now, what I suggest is that if you are buying a business that hasn't got a team, then I suggest first starting out with nichewebsite.builders. There'll be a link in the description to use them as a content service, because it is hard to build a team, right? And a lot of the times, many people don't even want to build a team, and they're happy to just keep continually using content services and people like niche website builders to create content and do their backlink building, which makes it so much easier to run your business. So if you're interested in that service, like a lot of my clients use, check out nichewebsite.builders. Those are the tricky tactics that you need to be aware of when you're looking at purchasing a website business, and you need to not buy into, right? Like I said, if you haven't got the due diligence framework, make sure you get that, because that's going to eliminate you or prevent you from buying into some of those tricky tactics that sellers and website brokers use to get a higher price for their businesses. That's it from me in this video. If you guys do have questions, please comment all of your questions below. Or if there's some of these tricky tactics that you've learned that I haven't mentioned that website brokers and sellers actually use, please comment them below so all of us can learn some of these other tricky tactics that website brokers and sellers are using to gain higher prices for their businesses. Comment your questions below and expect a reply from me, because I do reply to each and every single comment you guys put. So even if you just want to say hi. That's it from me, guys. All the best. Bye.